I tried to get my best friend to break up with her boyfriend a million times, and now I'm at their wedding. On the day of the wedding, I was sitting at the head table with the groom's right-hand man, comparing notes on our phones. It turns out that every time the two of them had a blowout fight, we were the ones who paid the price. Our chat histories were eerily similar. We broke up. For real this time. But what do? I can't stop thinking about. The groom's guy, get a new job. You'd make a great clown at the circus. Me, you owe me for this. I tried to convince my best friend to dump him a million times, and then I got her wedding invitation. When I heard the news, I just let out a cold, dead inside laugh, like some tragic queen who'd lost her mind in an old movie. But as Olivia's ride or die since we were kids, I still showed up to be her maid of honor. I even gave them a generous gift and bought her something off the registry. On the big day, I just couldn't bring myself to smile. Finally, my bestie looked at me worriedly and said, "Win, if you can't smile, don't force it. You look cool and mysterious with a straight face anyway." My best friend may be love-struck, but she was marrying into a ridiculously wealthy New York family, and most importantly, she still loved me. So, I put up with it. When the groom's party arrived, I noticed one of the groomsmen had an even sourer look on his face than I did. He looked like he strongly disapproved of this marriage. But he was hot. He had these really charming eyes, a black stud in his left earlobe, and sharp features, the roguishly handsome type. And in a suit, he had a whole other vibe going on. One of the other bridesmaids noticed him and quietly asked the bride who he was. And from the bride's lips, I heard a name that had been ringing in my ears for years, Jay. Just as I was Olivia's best friend, this Jay guy was apparently the groom's childhood best friend. For the longest time, I had despised this man I'd never met, second only to how much I despised the groom, Sean. Because every time I thought those two were finally done for good, this damn Jay would give his buddy some brilliant new strategy, and that jerk Sean would win my best friend back again. He was clearly a master strategist, so wasn't this wedding exactly what he'd been aiming for? So why the long face? Was he trying to provoke me? While the bride and groom were grinning like idiots, Jay and I just stared at them, stone-faced. After all the ceremony nonsense was over, I finally got to sit down. I don't know if the seating planner was trying to stir up drama, but I was at the main table, and Jay was seated right next to me. It was loud and festive all around us, but the two of us sat in silence like we were mute. I saw the groomsman next to me swipe on his phone a couple of times, then turn his head and meet my gaze head-on. Normally, strangers break eye contact after 2 seconds, but this guy didn't. I was sure he was challenging me, so I didn't back down. I stared right back. After a moment, through all the noise, I heard the man beside me speak. "Win. I've heard a lot about you." So, he'd heard of me too. I gave him a tight, humorless smile. "Hello, Jay." After that, feeling like I hadn't quite conveyed the full extent of my past rage, I added passive-aggressively, "You deserve a ton of credit for getting these two to the altar today." The man beside me furrowed his brow. "Thanks. You too." I snorted. "Oh, I don't think we're the same at all." If Olivia and Sean's path to the altar was full of obstacles, I was the biggest obstacle. God knows how long I'd been trying to get them to break up. Ever since they were just flirting, I knew Sean wasn't right for Olivia. And sure enough, they were together for 5 years of breaking up and getting back together. I don't know if they got tired of it, but it was enough to make me swear off men entirely. Dating? I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. A few seconds later, Jay replied, "In that case, I guess I was an obstacle too." Huh? I turned to look at him again. "Weren't you the one always pushing them to get back together?" "Jay, who said I was pushing for that?" Something wasn't adding up. I narrowed my eyes. "You were his strategist, weren't you? So why did Sean always come crawling back every time they were about to break up for good?" Jay looked genuinely offended. He opened his phone, scrolled up to about 3 months ago, and showed me the screen. "Sean, bro, I think this is it. We're really breaking up this time. I'm done with that heartless woman. Jay hadn't replied. 2 hours later. Sean, dude, she said yes. Congratulate me, I'm getting married. Have fun being her lapdog for the rest of your life. Every time she tugs the leash, you just go woof woof. You were born a man by accident. You should learn to be a good boy and stick close to your master. Sean, are you just jealous I'm getting a wife? Jay looked at me, deadpan. Do you have any idea how close I was to having an aneurysm? They break up at the drop of a hat. Who knows if they'll be threatening divorce every other week. I'm going to be tormented by this couple for the rest of my life. Do you understand my despair? I silently opened my phone and found my own chat log with Olivia from 3 months ago. Olivia, when, we broke up. Me, for how many days? Olivia, this time it's for real. I'm completely over him. I sent back a meme. 2 hours later. Olivia, when, can I tell you something? Don't be mad. Me, you got back together? Olivia, he proposed. I said yes. I said darkly, I felt like my world was ending. Jay, so, you were trying to get them to break up? You too? We stared at each other, sensing something was off, and started comparing notes on our phones. And that's when we discovered the history was shockingly similar. Sean, we broke up. For real this time. But what do? I can't get her out of my head. Jay, listen to me. Get a new job. You'd be a great clown at the circus. Olivia, when, I'm really breaking up with him. I miss him so much I can't sleep. Me, pay me for my emotional distress. Olivia, sent you 500. I could live with that. Jay's tone was gloomy. How come when your best friend bothers you about her breakup, she pays you for emotional damages? Me, your buddy doesn't? Jay fell silent. Scrolling through the chat, I realized just how savage Jay's texts were. If you're thinking about your ex, go stand out on the balcony. Sean, why? Did you tell Olivia to come see me? Jay, let the cold wind cool you down. If that doesn't work, just jump. Sean, I looked it up, Capricorns are just slow to warm up. That's why I can't win her heart. Jay, what divine law did we Capricorns break to deserve you slandering us like this? Sean, I sent her this whole long message. Why isn't she replying? Jay, all I see is a wall of text where your dignity used to be. And then there was my chat history. Olivia, I broke up with him. His parents are trying to set him up with someone from a similar background. I'm done with love forever. Me, okay. Olivia, I'm in love again. Me, new boyfriend? Olivia, it's still him. Me, happy for you. Hope it lasts forever this time. Olivia, he forgot our anniversary. He obviously doesn't love me anymore. Me, he's getting old. It's normal to be forgetful. Olivia, he's not old, he's the same age as me. Me, listen, a man over 25 is basically 60. Time to trade him in for a younger model. Olivia, but he's still really great. Looking at the chat history, Jay actually used to encourage them to work things out at first. After years of torture, he started to get twisted. There were so many similar conversations. But over the years, neither mine nor Jay's attempts to break them up had ever stuck. Jay's savage comments, in particular, seemed to have zero effect on Sean. It just shows you the power of being love-struck. One love-struck person is bad enough. This was two of them. Jay and I looked at each other again, and we both saw the same cursed fate reflected in each other's eyes. Me, brother. Jay, sister. We were practically blood-sworn allies now. Two souls, united by a common misery, exchanged numbers. Jay's voice was weary. How many days do you give them? My face was numb. I'm hoping for a month. We talked a lot, about the newlyweds and their million breakups, and eventually about ourselves and our jobs. Your company is on the Titan Tech campus too? He asked, a little surprised. I paused. Too. Jay, I just got transferred back there. I'll hit you up for lunch sometime. The wedding was grand and beautiful, a true story of lovers finally getting their happy ending. My best friend had finally married her on-again, off-again boyfriend. It was a little bittersweet. And after the wedding, I went back to being a noble, single-wage slave. The next time I saw Jay was a Friday night not long after. Our department had just landed a huge deal, and our director declared we were all going out to celebrate. The spot was a lively bar and grill where you could eat, drink, and hang out. Everyone was having a great time, and eventually, we all ended up on the dance floor. The director, a guy in his late 30s, was surprisingly nimble. When he came off the floor, he was bragging to the younger staff. That's how I wooed my wife, you know. A dance just like that back at a college party. You young folks need to get moving more. I had just sat down when my coworker nudged me. Win, isn't that hot guy over there staring at you? I followed her gaze and met a familiar pair of charming eyes. When he saw that I'd noticed him, the man raised his hand and waved. Jay. He was wearing a black button-down, and his every move exuded a bad boy charm. Over the years Olivia and Sean were dating, I'd heard Jay's name countless times. I'd always assumed he was the same type as Sean, but now I saw they were completely different. Win, I noticed that guy earlier. He was watching you the whole time you were dancing. I didn't know you knew him, my coworker said with a sly grin. I thought it was love at first sight for him. I felt a faint sense of secondhand embarrassment. Our tables were pretty far apart, so I didn't go over to him, and he didn't come over to me. Given that we'd only really met once, a wave from across the room was more than enough. I looked away. But not long after, a cheer went up from the crowd. I looked toward the sound. I saw the figure in black pick up a guitar and walk over to the stage. After a brief chat with the house musician, the musician stepped aside. The sound of guitar strings filled the air. Then, a low, masculine voice began to sing, laced with a casual, lazy coolness. It was captivating. It was a well-known English rock song, but Jay's voice gave it a seductive new flavor. I looked up at him, and I could tell from everyone's reactions just how charming he was. The dim lighting added to his air of mystery. My coworker next to me perfectly described the feeling. This guy singing and playing guitar is like a human aphrodisiac. Gives you the feeling he'd be incredible in bed. I covered her mouth. Keep your voice down. How did a song turn into a conversation about what he's like in bed? My coworker just giggled. He's so hot. She wasn't wrong about that. Plenty of girls in the bar were completely smitten. When the song ended, you could see several of them itching to go talk to him. By the end of the night, I'd had a fair bit to drink. I stood at the door and made sure the 2 junior colleagues I was looking after got into their rideshare before I looked down at my phone to check my own. The subway had already stopped running for the night, so everyone was either calling a designated driver or booking a car. Since I knew I'd be drinking, I hadn't driven. My phone showed there were still a few riders ahead of me in the queue. Win. A man's voice called out from a few feet away. I turned and met Jay's eyes. Almost instinctively, I smiled at him. Fancy seeing you here. Jay walked closer, his eyes on me. It is a coincidence. Company party? I nodded. His gaze dropped to my phone screen. After a moment, he said, "Cancel it. The traffic's a nightmare at this hour. Even if you get a car, you'll be stuck. I'll give you a ride." I didn't play coy, but I did give him a suspicious once-over. "You've been drinking, right?" He was my bestie's husband's best friend, after all. I was debating whether I needed to give him a lecture on traffic laws. Jay pointed to a car with its lights on at the curb. "I have a driver. I swear, I'm going to eat the rich." With a ride home secured, I quickly canceled my request. In the car, Jay and I sat side by side in the back seat. He asked for my address. "You and your coworkers seem pretty close," Jay said suddenly. "When you got in my car, was there a guy who looked worried I might be a bad guy?" I paused. The next second, Jay chuckled. "I think he likes you." It wasn't just a think. Jay's tone wasn't questioning, he sounded certain. I stared up at the car's ceiling, let out a small sigh, and didn't say anything. "Jay, what's wrong? You don't like him, and he's bothering you?" I'd only met Jay twice. He wasn't exactly the person I'd pour my heart out to. But I opened my mouth anyway. He was an intern I supervised last year. He just started full-time. During his internship, he made tons of little mistakes, and I was on his case every single day. I rejected his work over and over again. Out of all the interns, I criticized him the most. If I were him, I wouldn't have even taken a job at this company. What was he thinking? Who knew that not only did he come back after graduation, but he also confessed his feelings to me? The company didn't have a policy against office romances. But I wasn't interested. After hearing me out, Jay laughed. "Did you used to scold him? How did you do it?" I was lost in thought for a few seconds. Then Jay spoke again. "To each their own. If you don't like him, just keep your distance. It's perfectly normal." Normal? Was it normal to like being scolded, or normal to like me? Or maybe there were just so many weirdos in the world that this kind of thing seemed normal by comparison. For a while, neither of us spoke. Jay's phone next to me was vibrating non-stop with notifications, almost constantly. I remembered the scene after he finished his song, walking through the crowd as tons of young, beautiful women asked for his number. Was this? "Aren't you going to check your phone?" I asked. Jay glanced at me, then unlocked his phone. 2 seconds later, he held it out for me to see, a cynical smile on his face. "Here. It's your best friend's husband." I looked at the screen. "Sean, check out the new pajamas my wife bought me today." It must be so pathetic to sleep without a wife next to you, right, Jay? A new message popped up, and my eye twitched. "Seeing you single at 26 without ever having held a girlfriend. Bro, I almost feel sorry for you." I lifted my eyes from the phone and looked at the man who had just made countless women's hearts flutter. Jay seemed to catch something in my expression. He turned the phone back to himself, saw Sean's message, and his face darkened for a second. "Don't believe him. He's just making stuff up." I just said, "Oh. So you must have a long and storied dating history, then." Jay's face got even darker. No. But all those beautiful women wanted your number earlier," I said, pausing before adding, "and some handsome men, too." "Jay, I didn't give it to them. And don't you start spreading rumors about me either." The car pulled up downstairs from my apartment. Jay's phone was still buzzing, as if Sean would just keep texting until he got a response. Thinking about it, the fact that Jay had managed to stay friends with Sean for so many years really said something about his loyalty. Fate is a strange thing. After that night, I started seeing Jay more often. Bonded by the shared trauma of our friends on-again, off-again relationship, we had a sense of mutual sympathy. Olivia and Sean were in their honeymoon phase, happy and conflict-free for the moment. One weekend, Jay made good on his promise to take me to dinner. His treat. The place he chose was a nice Italian restaurant. That day, I wore a white sundress and put on a little makeup before heading out. When I arrived, Jay was already there. He was dressed more casually than on a workday, but whether it was him or his clothes, he still looked effortlessly cool. Jay saw me and waved with a smile. The dinner started out normally enough, but halfway through, the conversation inevitably drifted back to our hopeless friends. How could a single meal at a wedding reception possibly be enough time to cover all of our heroic breakup instigating efforts over the years? So, that time Sean was on a business trip and his female coworker answered his phone while he was in the shower. "What did you tell him?" I was genuinely curious. I really thought they were done for good that time. It happened last year. Sean was still working his way up at his family's company, not some VP who'd been parachuted in. He was sharing a room with a male colleague on a business trip when a female coworker who had a crush on him dropped by. She happened to pick up Olivia's call and said ambiguously, "He's in the shower right now." Olivia blocked him on the spot. But they got back together eventually. To this day, I still don't know if the story was true or not. Jay was silent for a moment, then said, "I told him if he couldn't even keep an eye on his own phone, he might as well just castrate himself, because sooner or later he wouldn't be able to keep an eye on that either." What a sharp, vicious thing to say. And then Sean somehow misinterpreted what I said. He went and had a custom-made chastity belt for men, and gave the key to your best friend. He said it so fast that by the time I processed what I'd heard, it was too late. No wonder Olivia was so evasive when I'd asked her, heartbroken, why she took him back. Speaking of which, that time your best friend's high school sweetheart came back to the country, how did she manage to win Sean back? Olivia had a first love in high school. It was all very innocent, holding hands was as far as it went, which was less intimate than my friendship with her. But young love doesn't always need that. Olivia really liked her first love, but he went abroad right after graduation. When he came back, he said he still loved her, and Sean found out. Awkwardly, the two men were somewhat similar, both were STEM whizzes who wore silver-framed glasses. Sean threw a fit, accusing Olivia of using him as a substitute. Olivia was completely wrong, she just had a thing for smart guys. The two of them dragged it out forever, tangled up in a mess of angst and affection. I thought back to that time and answered, Olivia didn't win him back. Because your good buddy didn't believe her sincerity or her explanations, she got fed up and tried to break up with him instead. Then your buddy came begging her to take him back. Jay pressed his fingers to his temple, as if the memory of those two was giving him a headache all over again. It's all in the past, I said, offering some token comfort. Don't think about it. It's not worth getting worked up over. Easy for me to say. But whenever we got together, we always ended up talking about the newlyweds, and we had enough frustrating stories to last for 3 days and 3 nights. 2 months after Olivia's wedding, Jay and I were pretty close. Two people who got along so well, and the foundation of our revolutionary friendship was built on our love-struck friends. It's true what they say, talking shit about other people is the fastest way to bond. One day after work, it was pouring rain outside. I was driving, wipers swishing back and forth. Just as I pulled out of the parking garage, I saw a familiar figure among the crowd of people waiting for the rain to stop under a nearby building's awning. I drove over, pulled up to the curb, and gave Jay a call. Over the sound of rain both outside and through the phone, I watched him through the downpour and asked, "What are you doing waiting in the rain? Where's your car?" The man on the steps looked over. From his angle, he probably couldn't see me through the rain-streaked windshield. "Car's in for service," he said. Ah, that explained it. "Get in, I'll give you a ride." The man on the other end didn't hesitate. He quickly ran through the rain, opened the car door, and slid in, his clothes soaked. I handed him some tissues. Jay reached for them, his fingertips accidentally brushing against my hand. A wave of dampness and cold spread from the point of contact. "Thanks for this," he said. As I followed the address Jay gave me, I grew silent. "You're saying this is your house? This massive villa?" And here I was, in my late 20s, proud of myself for buying a car on my own and a spacious condo with my parents' help. "Want a tour?" "I live alone," the man beside me suddenly invited. I turned my head, my eyes flickering for a second as I noticed how the rain had soaked his white shirt, making parts of it semi-transparent. The fabric clung to his body, outlining the contours of his well-defined pecs. Noticing my gaze, Jay said apologetically, "Sorry, I got your car wet." I shifted my eyes back to his face. "It's fine." In fact, I almost wanted to thank him. So generous of him. The villa's exterior was so beautiful that I couldn't resist going in for a tour. The inside did not disappoint. Neither did Jay, who was stripping off his shirt as he walked up the stairs. From behind, with his shirt unbuttoned and off, I saw broad shoulders and a beautifully sculpted back. A short while later, Jay came downstairs in a fresh set of clothes. He said, "Since you're here, stay for dinner. You can try my cooking." He was wearing an apron, which would have been nothing special, except the weather had recently turned cooler. Jay had changed into a black, high-necked, form-fitting shirt. The kind of outfit that's basically men's lingerie. Of course, it only works if you have the body for it. I watched him cook with an effortless grace. Half an hour later, he brought our dinner to the table. Since I had to drive, I didn't touch the wine in his cabinet. He chuckled. "You can take a couple of bottles with you when you leave." I averted my gaze. It was one thing to be dressed like sin, but his smile was just as wicked. I refused to admit I was the one with a dirty mind. After dinner, Jay invited me upstairs to see his telescope. The night sky, just after the rain, was unusually clear. Under his guidance, I saw a whole new kind of scenery. As I was focusing on the view, I suddenly realized his voice was very close to my ear. I turned my head. Jay's face was so close we were almost touching. He smelled good. "What cologne do you use?" I asked suddenly. "Why do you ask?" "It smells nice." Jay went quiet for a moment. I belatedly realized that telling someone they smell good could be seen as a form of flirting. I opened my mouth to make an excuse, but my eyes landed on Jay's lips, a very nice shape. The words that came out were different from what I'd intended. "Your lips look very kissable." Jay's gaze met mine. "Win," he said, "we haven't been drinking tonight." The next second, he leaned in. The moment his lips touched mine, my brain felt like it was exploding with fireworks. I briefly lost the ability to think. But the sensation. It was wonderful. Jay pulled away for a second. He looked at me, as if he wanted to say something. I leaned in again. This time, no one spoke. The balcony was quiet, filled only with the ambient sounds of the outdoors and the sound of our kissing. Two sober adults sharing a muddled kiss in the dark. The sudden vibration of my phone brought a moment of clarity. I looked at my phone. The caller ID said, "Olivia." "I have to take this," I said, avoiding Jay's eyes, and therefore missing the way his gaze followed me. Olivia's gloomy voice came through the phone. "Win, do you think men always get colder after they get married? He doesn't even hold me when we sleep anymore." At that moment, Jay's phone also started vibrating, a flood of messages pouring in. He frowned, picked it up, and after a moment, turned it to show me. "Sean, good God, we've been married for 2 months, spent half a month on our honeymoon, and I've been working overtime ever since I got back. I was so tired last night I fell asleep while she was in the shower. Now my wife is saying I don't love her as much as I did before we got married. I'm being framed. Olivia, see? Once men get what they want, they stop cherishing it." I tried to reason with her. "Is it possible that he's just been busy and tired lately? Have you tried asking him about work?" Olivia paused. "You think so?" "Me, it's possible." "Win, why are you defending Sean all of a sudden?" Olivia's attention shifted. "Have you finally changed your mind about him? What was I supposed to do, tell her to get a divorce?" The call lasted for over 10 minutes. When I came to, I saw that Jay had already replied to his messages and put his phone aside. He hadn't locked the screen, and I didn't mean to snoop, but I glanced over and saw the one-line reply Jay had sent his friend. "If you can't get it up, take some pills." Sean had sent back several voice messages, each dozens of seconds long. Jay hadn't even listened to them, clearly already guessing what they contained. Seeing me looking, Jay said, "I don't need any pills." "Who asked?" After that moment of weakness, my sober self didn't know how to face Jay. So I started avoiding him. Until the day he cornered me in the underground parking garage. "Win," he said, his voice low as he stared at me. Who taught you to kiss a man and then run away? Trying to love them and leave them? I was in romantic debt. The timing was terrible. I had to keep an eye out for anyone else in the garage. Jay took a step forward, completely blocking my path. My back was against my car. Jay said, "I'm not a casual kind of guy. Don't you think you should take some responsibility for me?" I lifted my chin defiantly. "You started it." He looked down at me, a light I couldn't decipher swirling in his beautiful eyes. He let out a soft laugh. "But you kissed me back, didn't you? A little give and take. Seems fair to me, right? I kissed you because I like you. What about you? Why did you kiss me back?" he asked. His words were so direct that even my blinking slowed down. There was nowhere to retreat. The proximity made our positions feel intensely intimate. As if worried I might bolt, he braced a hand against the car next to me. I had to say something. "Jay, this isn't a good idea. What if we break up? We'd still have to see each other." Based on experience, Olivia and Sean had been breaking up and making up for years without ever splitting for good. That meant Jay and I would definitely run into each other in the future. If we got involved now and broke up later, it would be incredibly awkward. Jay seemed to laugh in exasperation. "We're not even together and you're already planning the breakup? Who taught you to be such a player? If those two have the nerve to torture us for this long, we can just torture them back a little when the time comes." This guy had really been twisted by his friend's long-running relationship drama. I was about to say something else when Jay suddenly leaned down and kissed me. We were in an underground parking garage, surrounded by cars. I could even hear the faint sound of footsteps and voices from further away. My eyes flew open. I tried to speak, but he took the opportunity to part my lips. Besides the sound of our own breathing, all the other noises around us became hypersensitive. A moment later, I finally found a chance to speak. "Jay, there are people." The next second, his hand found the door handle behind me. The door clicked open, and he pushed me inside, then leaned in from the doorway and gently brushed his lips against mine again. "So, can I kiss you when there's no one around?" His eyes curved into a smile, exuding an indescribable charm. I blinked, still trying to process what had just happened, as Jay got into my car. He looked straight at me. "Win, want to date?" As he spoke, a trace of my lipstick still stained his lips. It made them look even redder, glistening and bright. Reason told me to think this through carefully, but when Jay leaned in again, I found it impossible to push him away. Just as I was about to give in and respond, Jay pulled back, a playful smile on his face. "Are you sure you don't want to date me?" "I only want to kiss my girlfriend." After taking a moment to catch my breath, I asked, "And if I say no?" "I'll take being your lover, too," he said. I looked into his smiling eyes and realized one undeniable fact. A handsome face is a dangerous thing. Jay wasn't like Sean. He didn't get hung up on saying "I like you" all the time. But when he really wanted to hear it, he'd just look at me with those beautiful eyes and say, "Win, have mercy. If I don't hear you say you like me soon, I'm going to die of longing." Jay had a handsome face, and he knew how to use it. I traced his face with my fingers, up to the stud in his left ear, and lightly touched it. "When did you get the piercing?" I asked. "A long time ago. In college, I think. I was in a band with some friends, and we thought it looked cool." It did look cool. It also made him look like a bad boy. Olivia's message arrived while I was straddling Jay's lap, wrapped in his arms as he kissed me. I pushed him away, panting, to check my phone. Before I could read the text, Olivia was calling. It was the usual litany of petty marital problems. Marriage involves more than just emotions. This time, Olivia was getting pressured by Sean's nosy relatives to have a baby. She had just gotten married and wasn't ready for that yet. And the relatives' words probably weren't very nice. Olivia's family was well off, but not on the same level as Sean's, so some people were trying to put on airs and look down on her. From our current position, Jay could probably hear some of it. And at this very moment, the man was busy burying his head in my neck in the space above my chest, planting a trail of soft, scattered kisses. Olivia's words successfully reignited my annoyance with Sean, which then transferred to Jay. I gave him a light smack, and when he looked up, I shot him a glare. I said to Olivia on the phone, "Where's Sean? What does he have to say about this?" Olivia stammered, I haven't told him yet. If I tell him, would that be like I'm talking bad about his family? Me, tell him. This is his problem to solve. After the call ended, I wasn't in the mood anymore. I glared at Jay. "You're a useless friend." He poked my cheek. "Win, who am I?" "Jay." He nodded. "Right. Your boyfriend, Jay. Not Sean." Why the guilt by association? This family drama was clearly starting to spread. After being glared at by me, Jay picked up his phone and fired off a random, out-of-context message to his good friend. "You useless piece of crap." Jay continued, "A bunch of people are going over your head to bully your wife, and you're completely clueless. How did I end up with such a worthless son?" Sean sent another question mark. That just pissed Jay off even more. He tossed his phone aside and pulled me into a hug. "You're right. He's a useless piece of crap." Thanks to Jay's two nonsensical accusations, Sean finally found out what his wife had been going through. He took her back for a family dinner and proceeded to make life miserable for all the nosy aunts and uncles and their kids. Olivia finally got her satisfaction. She called me afterward. "Win, I love you so much. Thanks to you this time. I had a bag sent over for you. See if you like it. If not, pick something else. But are you and Jay close?" she asked, pausing, a little embarrassed. "Sean says his friend has a really sharp tongue. If he says something mean, don't get too mad." Sharp tongue. I'd found that Jay's venom was mainly reserved for the two of them, especially Sean. My voice was a little evasive, and I felt a bit guilty. "I won't get mad." My relationship with Olivia hadn't really cooled off after she got married, it was just that our life priorities were different. We still loved gossiping with each other whenever we had the chance. After getting together with Jay, I discovered that the times they messaged us were highly synchronized. I don't know if it was because of their precedent, but Jay and I were so tired of angsty relationships that ours was very direct and straightforward. Sometimes, when our friends were fighting, Jay and I would compare notes and find that it was another classic case of you don't say it, so I'll just guess. We were turning into marriage counselors, mediating their disputes while also lecturing our respective friends on the importance of communication. But late one night, my phone rang. Without looking, I reached for it and accidentally hit the answer button. On the other end, Olivia chattered on for a few minutes about recent events, then suddenly asked, "Win, what's wrong with your throat? Your voice sounds a little strange." "I'm fine, just a little sleepy." The call ended quickly. Jay lifted his head, his kisses trailing back up, leaving me damp. He buried his face in my neck and laughed. "Is this what it feels like to have an affair?" Jay was a fast learner. From his initial awkwardness, he quickly became an expert, and he even liked to try new things. The next time our clingy friends had a fight, I heard Sean complaining to Jay on the phone. "I don't know what's wrong with my wife lately. She's so much crankier, and she's constantly anxious about her hair falling out and her weight gain, but she's still just as beautiful and cute." Olivia was saying to me, "I don't know why, but I get so annoyed just looking at him lately." Win, do you think the novelty has worn off? Does being so annoyed with him mean I'm a bad person? She wasn't a bad person before, but now she's worried about it. I told her to think carefully about her marriage and not to act rashly. It was normal to go through a period of marital fatigue, it wasn't the same as dating. I advised her to think it over. That thinking it over lasted 2 months. 2 months later, Olivia told me, a little shyly, "Win, I'm pregnant." Unexpected, yet perfectly logical. Jay and I were compatible in every way. We had kept our relationship a secret from our friends. Until one day, Olivia said, Sean mentioned he has a few friends who are great catches. He said he'd check on their relationship status and introduce you if they're single. Jay was confident. Given his friendship with Sean, he was sure he'd be the first person Sean thought of to introduce to me. But he waited and waited. I had already received contact info for several guys, but Sean still hadn't contacted him. Olivia, Win, see if you like any of these guys. To be honest, I think his friend Jay is handsome, but Sean said his buddy has such a bad temper and a sharp tongue. He was afraid if he introduced you too, it would cause all sorts of family drama. It already has, thank you very much. Jay immediately found an excuse to chew out his good son. Sean, what did I even do to you? You guess. A sound of desperation came from the other end. My wife tells me to guess, you tell me to guess, am I a mind reader? No one cared. Until that night, I was working late, and Jay drove me home. My apartment has a private elevator lobby. The moment we stepped out of the elevator, Jay leaned down and started kissing me. He walked me backward a few steps, still kissing me, when I suddenly felt something was off. I pushed Jay away and found myself face to face with Olivia and Sean, who were standing right at my door. Olivia, in the second trimester of her pregnancy, sounded a little breathless. She pointed to the bags of groceries in her husband's hands and said, I figured you've been working late, so I brought you some food to stock your fridge. You can just heat it up. Sean pointed a trembling finger at his best friend. You. Jay looked up. What, never seen people in a relationship before? Sean's retort was just as fast. Never seen a dog in a relationship. Jay raised an eyebrow. Funny, I have. After their little spat, it felt like all four of us had just been insulted. Olivia was shocked. She asked me in private when things started with Jay. I told her, and she fell silent. No wonder Jay threw a fit when Sean wanted to introduce you to his other friends. No, it wasn't just that. The main reason was that Jay wasn't on the list of candidates Sean had offered, and it bruised his ego. Jay sent the couple off with a cheerful smile. When he came back, he sat down next to me and wrapped his arm around me. I asked, you kept looking at Olivia's stomach. Do you want to be a dad? Not really. It's just. Sean is so unreliable. The thought of him becoming a father is just. Wild. I leaned in and whispered to him, believe it or not, I can give you a crash course in that role right now. He glanced down at my stomach. The next second, I whispered in his ear, Daddy. The look in Jay's eyes shifted for a split second. He raised an eyebrow, then scooped me up from the sofa. So, are you going to be Daddy's good girl tonight? I leaned close to his ear again. Of course. Of course, sometimes I also like to put a nice silver chain on Jay and let him be my bad little puppy. Epilogue. I have a hopeless friend. He gets played like a fiddle by a woman. At first, I advised him to have a normal relationship and stop overthinking things. Later, I prayed they would break up, just to end my own suffering by proxy. I wasn't the one in the relationship, but I was exhausted. I tried to get him to break up with her 1,000,000 times, and I ended up drinking at his wedding. I'm the clown. At the wedding, the equally stone-faced maid of honor told me she was a fellow victim. My first feeling toward her was camaraderie. That night at her company party, Wynn was on the dance floor, her body moving with a natural, effortless charm. The guys around her were itching to get her number, but they all walked away empty-handed. Beautiful, warm, generous. That was my impression of her. We had so much to talk about when it came to our friend's relationship. The list of complaints about her best friend and Sean's love story could go on for 3 days and 3 nights. One day, as we were chatting, I suddenly noticed the fine, soft hair on her face. We weren't at a safe distance anymore. But I didn't mind. I was done for. It was my turn to be a woman's dog. Here's the tutorial for being a woman's dog. Show off your looks. Show off your body. Show off your wealth. Show off your cooking skills. Show off your excellent performance in bed.